All right, Tigers. Good afternoon. This will be for Thursday, 3/26, podcast on the Iranian hostage crisis and the conclusions that come from it, foreign policy-wise. So, what you start seeing is let's do a little bit of prehistory, right? There's our boy, the Shah. We put him in power in 1954, Operation Ajax. The United States and the British removed Mossadegh from power so that we could then have control to Iranian oil fields throughout, right? Well, by 1977, the Shah was dying from cancer. Riots broke out because he didn't have the power, and then the Shah was forced to leave. Nobody would give him asylum, so ultimately he comes to the United States to treat his malignant lymphoma. And ultimately, if you want treatment for that, I'd probably come here as well. Regardless, it left a power vacuum in Iran filled by the religious leader of the country. Okay? His name is the Ayatollah. Okay? Or, I'm sorry. His name is Khomeini. Okay? The Ayatollah, which is a title for, cleric, an important person of the faith, says to the masses, death of the Shah, that's a problem. Death to Carter, that's worse. And then death to America. So he called the embassy in Tehran a nest of spies. So what happens, guys, is that the embassy is overrun, and our defense forces there do not respond in fire because the limited number of Marines that we have in the facility would not have been able to defend from the thousands of Iranians that are out there at that time. So 66 Americans would be captured and offered in exchange for the Shah to be returned to Iran. Now, what's interesting is that 14 of them were released because they were either African American, meaning they felt, the Iranians felt that enough negative things had happened to them because they were African American, or women because under true Islam, you're not supposed to hurt anything or hurt any women in any way, shape, or form. So that leaves 52 people held for 444 days. So here's another graphic that I like, seeing U.S. personnel being held, bound, and blindfolded. You can see the Ayatollah talking to people at that time. And what you start to see, guys, is this idea of a test of wills. This was a Time magazine cover of the time. Okay? So what does Carter do? The first action is he freezes $8 billion of Iranian assets in U.S. banks, meaning the Iranians aren't able to access these monies. That's not enough. So in April of 1980, they launched an operation called Eagle Claw. Oh, I don't even know if that's the right noise an eagle makes when it swoops down, but I've been using it for years. So I want you to imagine that an eagle is going to swoop down and just pluck our hostages out. Like it does, imagine an eagle flying over a lake, swooping down and grabbing a fish. Same type of idea. The problem is this is a very complicated mission and operation. It required 8 of our helicopters and 6 of our big transport planes called C-130s, to meet in the desert. They would all of them would meet in the desert. They would land in the desert. They would then prepare for the operation over top of the embassy. The hope was that the helicopters would then fly over top of the embassy. They would drop rope lines down. Our guys would drop down. They'd kill all the bad guys, and then a couple of helicopters would land. They'd pick up our hostages, they fly back to the desert, and then the transports would fly the hostages and our people back to a safe haven somewhere outside of this area. Well, as you can tell by the image here, one of the issues is when you land in the desert with all of this heavy aircraft, a lot of sand gets kicked up and spun up at this point. And what happens is that one of the helicopters crashes into one of the transports, and 8 Americans are killed. And another one of the helicopters experiences a mechanical breakdown of some kind and is forced back. We can't run this operation with only 6 helicopters. So what happens is that Carter then aborts the mission because it could not have happened. You needed 8 helicopters for this to work, and you only had 6 now. Most of the hostages, when asked about this afterwards, were of the opinion this was a good thing that it didn't happen because they didn't think that they were going to be able to get out of there alive. Carter asked for Kennedy's Bay of Pigs speech. We've talked about this multiple times, but how to approach the nation when a bad thing has happened. and the Secretary of State, Cyrus Vance, resigns over this point. So, in conclusion, what comes of this is that for the first time, the U.S. doubted our strength. For years, we'd always been the world's sheriff, the world's banker, the world's policeman. But now, many Americans believe our influence around the world had now fallen to a point where we just don't have it anymore. There was a time period from 1945 to 1979 that some historians refer to as the Pax Americana. You know, it's like the Pax Britannica or the Pax Romana, right? The American peace. Well, that time is now over because of our failure of standing now in the world. It's probably inevitable, okay, whenever you get older at this point, or in a more powerful and coming international world. Guys, two is Carter just didn't have it. Whatever it was, he didn't have it. You should know what it is. Apologize. So, excuse me, whatever it was, he didn't have it. Okay, he didn't have the charm of FDR. He didn't have the way to command television like Kennedy did. He didn't have Johnson's ability to handle Congress, you know, by being creepy and all those things like that, right? And he didn't have Nixon's ability to handle the spectacular, like he'd blame the Cubans or the Cubans or the Cubans or whatever the case may be, right? So he didn't have it. And third, guys, is Americans are now going to want a strong leader. And politicians from this point on are going to learn to not act as wishy-washy as Carter did. Like when we talk about Reagan and Bush and Obama and Trump, you're going to see people that are making decisions and not really worrying about what the issue is. They're not going to apologize for their actions. And that's sort of where it comes to at that point. So when we show you the electoral map, okay, just to give you an idea, as we roll into Reagan here, okay, one of the issues that comes up, guys, is this idea that this is a cartoon of the time. You know, who's the worst president ever? And they put Carter in there, and it's bad because he's a really nice guy, but he just sort of pops in that way. The election of 1980, guys, you can see it was a beatdown. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 states for Jimmy Carter, 44 for Ronald Reagan. Electoral vote is 89 to 49. You do see a couple minor people here, and we'll talk about this a little bit in detail. John Anderson thought we should nuke the Russians, and apparently 5.7 million people thought we should nuke the Russians. But Reagan wins a massive landslide of the vote, and then it's over. So we've run out of time here, and now we have to get to this point where we need an American rebirth in the 1980s. And we're going to get that under Reagan. We'll talk about how we get to that point. I wish you nothing but the best. Okay, stay safe, stay healthy. Get outside if possible. Okay? Go Tigers.